In 1961, two brothers sold their own name for $1. Not a metaphor, not a rounding error, $1 for the word McDonald's. And here's the thing, they weren't tricked by a stranger off the street. They were outmaneuvered by a man they trusted, a man they made rich. So how do you lose your own name, the one your father gave you, the one on the building you built with your own hands? By the end of this, you're going to look at that golden arch differently, because the man everyone credits with inventing it didn't. He didn't build it. He took it. And there's a difference between those two words that most people never bother to check. You know the brand. Everyone does. Golden arches, fries in the red carton, a drive-thru on nearly every corner of the planet. And if you asked most people who built all of that, they'd say one name, Ray Kroc. That's the story McDonald's tells about itself. The milkshake machine salesman who saw a small restaurant and turned it into a global empire through sheer hustle. It's a good story. It's just not the real one. The real one starts in 1948 with two brothers, Dick and Mac McDonald, running a barbecue joint in San Bernardino that wasn't making money fast enough. So they did something almost nobody in the restaurant business had tried. They fired the car hops, cut the menu down to 9 items, redesigned the kitchen like a factory floor, every station timed, every motion mapped out in tape on a tennis court, workers walking the exact routes before a single burger was ever cooked. They called it the Speedee Service System. No plates, no silverware, no car hops running trays out to parked cars. Just paper wrapping, a stripped-down menu, and a kitchen built for speed, the way an assembly line is built for speed. It's the reason a burger, fries, and a drink can land in your hand in under 60 seconds today. Every fast food chain on Earth, in some form, is still running on their blueprint. And it worked. Almost too well. By the early 1950s, their restaurant was pulling numbers that made owners across the country want to copy it. People drove hours just to watch the kitchen work. Then, in 1954, a mixer salesman named Ray Kroc showed up to find out why one restaurant kept ordering 8 of his machines at a time. Most locations needed 1. He walked into that kitchen and didn't see a burger stand. He saw the future. Kroc convinced the brothers to let him franchise the McDonald's name across the country. They agreed, reluctantly. They'd tried franchising once already, and quality had slipped. But Kroc pushed. In 1955, they signed a deal that handed him control of expansion, in exchange for a small cut of the profits. Half of 1%, split between 2 men. It sounded modest enough not to argue over. Neither brother imagined how large the number underneath that 0.5% would eventually grow. Because Kroc wasn't really selling burgers. He was building a real estate company underneath the entire operation. He bought the land under new franchises, then leased it back to the owners at a markup. It meant every franchisee answered to him twice, once as the man who licensed the name, and once as the man who owned the dirt beneath their restaurant. Every time a McDonald's opened anywhere in America, money moved through Kroc, not through Dick and Mac. Within a few years, he wasn't just running the company. He owned the ground it stood on. And a company that owns the ground can outlast almost anyone sitting across the negotiating table from it. Back in San Bernardino, the brothers were still running their one original restaurant. They weren't part of the daily decisions anymore. Kroc found their caution frustrating. He wanted faster growth, cheaper ingredients, a bigger machine. They wanted to protect the standard they'd spent years perfecting. The distance widened. Phone calls got shorter. Letters got colder. What had started as a handshake between 2 men who respected each other slowly turned into 2 sides of a negotiation. In 1961, Kroc offered to buy them out completely. $2.7 million split between them. It sounded enormous at the time, but there was a catch buried inside it. The brothers asked for one permanent thing in return: a lifetime royalty of 1% of future profits. Kroc agreed. Out loud. On a handshake. He told them there wasn't room in the contract to write it in, so they trusted him. That royalty was never paid. Not once. This is where it stops being a story about burgers. Think about how many times in your own life you've trusted a verbal promise from a boss, a partner, someone who seemed to have no reason to lie to you. What would you have done in their position? Take the money and trust the handshake, or walk away and demand it in writing? Most people never find out what that trust costs until it's already gone. And the brothers found out through one more clause buried in that contract. In exchange for the money, they had to give up the rights to their own name. Their own last name. The one their father had. The one on their birth certificates. They couldn't open another restaurant called McDonald's, not even one town over, not even in the same building where they'd invented the entire system in the first place. So they opened a new restaurant across the street from their original store, under a different name. And Kroc, the man they had trusted, the man whose company now legally owned their name, built a brand new McDonald's directly across from it. Same street, same town, the same golden arches they had designed. Their restaurant couldn't compete. It closed within a few years. Ray Kroc went on to become one of the most celebrated businessmen in American history. Dick and Mac McDonald quietly faded out of the story they'd written. They never got their 1%. They never got their name back, and maybe that's the part of this that stays with you longest. Not the size of the empire that got built, but the size of the promise that never got kept. Somewhere in San Bernardino, there's a building that isn't a McDonald's anymore. Most people drive past it without knowing what it used to be, or what it cost the two men who built it first. If stories like this one, where the real history behind a familiar brand turns out to be stranger than the legend, are the kind of thing you want more of, consider subscribing. There are more of them ahead.